She thought she could just take my boat without permission for a quick tour. And when I realized what had happened, I made sure she learned her lesson the hard way. The result? She had to explain herself directly to the authorities. And it wasn't very nice. Living near water has always been my dream. Working as a commander in the Coast Guard, I spent my life at sea and wanted a quiet place to relax on my days off. I managed to buy a house in a gated community with a small private dock where I left my boat. It was my pride and joy. A brand new, well-equipped model, perfect for fishing trips. The problem? My neighborhood had a problem called women who think they own everything. Ever since this woman showed up, she wouldn't stop complaining about things that were none of her business. First, she said that boats like mine didn't fit in with the aesthetics of the condominium. Then she started saying that I shouldn't have privileges just because I had a private dock. Clearly, she was upset because she didn't have one. At first, I ignored it. I'd dealt with stubborn people before, and I knew that the best way to deal with this kind of neighbor was to pay no attention. But the problem with these people is that when you don't react, they try to go even further. And that's exactly what she did. It was an ordinary weekend. I woke up early, ready to go down to the dock and do a little maintenance on the boat before heading out to sea. But when I got there, I felt that chill down my spine that only comes when you realize something is terribly wrong. My boat wasn't there. I stopped for a moment, blinking, trying to process what I was seeing. My first thought was that someone had moved it without telling me. Maybe it was some mistake by the condominium. Maybe a mistake. But then I saw it. The mooring ropes had been cut. The adrenaline surged. This was no mistake. Someone had stolen my boat. Now, most people would panic in that situation. But me? Well, I'm a Coast Guard officer. If there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's that the sea can be treacherous, even more so for those who have no idea what they're doing. And the question on my mind was, who would be stupid enough to steal a boat from a Coast Guard commander? That's when I heard the voice of my neighbor, Mr. Thompson. "Hey, I thought you lent the boat to that woman from the HOA. I saw her leaving with him earlier." I froze. "Who? You know, that pain in the ass from the blue house?" That's when the shock turned to anger. She stole my boat. And now, I was going to make sure she never forgot the day she thought she could play with the Coast Guard. I needed to act fast. The sea is no joke, and if this woman took my boat without any experience, she was taking a serious risk. Not that I cared about her well-being, but the last thing I wanted was an emergency in my name because of someone else's irresponsibility. I took out my cell phone and, before doing anything else, checked the boat's tracker. Of course, my boat had a tracker. It wasn't just an expensive toy. It was a high-performance vessel equipped with state-of-the-art technology. Within seconds, the screen showed its exact location. And there it was, sailing aimlessly, getting further and further away from the coast. I'm not one for swear words, but at that moment, I swear I let out a loud one. Because now I knew that this woman had not only stolen my boat, but had no idea how to steer it. I climbed into my vehicle and headed straight for the Coast Guard base. If she thought she was going to give me a hard time, I was going to pay her back in full, and with interest. When I arrived, I went straight to my contacts. I called one of my colleagues, who was on duty, and explained the situation. Of course, he burst out laughing. "Are you telling me that your HOA neighbor stole your boat and is adrift?" "That's right. Man, this is going to be good." Minutes later, we were already organizing the approach. Lucky for her, I was in charge of the operation. If it had been any other officer, she would have been treated like a criminal. But I wanted to catch her the right way. We got into the patrol boat and set off in the direction of the tracker's signal. And the closer we got, the clearer it became how stupid she was. Firstly, because she was alone in the middle of the sea. Secondly, because she had no idea how to maneuver the boat. The boat was spinning in circles, completely out of control, heading deeper and deeper into the water. And best of all, she was freaking out. Even from a distance, you could hear her screams. We tuned into her frequency on the radio and tried to contact her. I, holding back my laughter, picked up the microphone. "This is the United States Coast Guard. Identify yourself immediately." On the other side, all we heard was despair. Oh my God, get me out of here! I'm lost! The boat is broken!" That's a lie. The boat wasn't broken. She was too incompetent to steer it. When we finally reached her, the scene was worthy of a comedy movie. She was sweaty, with disheveled hair, holding the steering wheel of the boat, as if it were a toy about to explode. And when she saw that I was on patrol, her face instantly went pale, because that's when she realized that she had just screwed up her own life. When we finally approached, she looked at us as if she had seen a ghost. The desperation was all over her face, and the arrogance she had displayed in the condominium, it was completely gone. Now, all that was left was pure panic and monumental stupidity floating in the middle of the ocean. The patrol slowed down, and we stopped next to the boat. Even before I said anything, she was screaming, "Help me! The boat is broken! It doesn't want to go back to land!" Oh, how I wanted to laugh out loud right then. But I held back. I gestured for my colleagues to be quiet and approached calmly, talking on the radio as if I were dealing with any other rescue. "This is the Coast Guard. You're in possession of a vessel that doesn't belong to you. Are you aware of that?" She blinked a few times, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Clearly, she didn't expect me to treat this as a real crime. "Minus. I just borrowed it. It was just a quick ride. Then I couldn't stand it. I let out a short, dry laugh. You borrowed it? That's interesting. Usually, when someone borrows something, they don't have to cut the ties and sneak out." She blushed, her eyes wide, but still tried to hold on to the last shred of dignity she had left. "I was going to give it back. It's not like I was stealing." One of my colleagues couldn't help himself and laughed over the radio. I remained serious. "You're in possession of a boat that isn't yours, without the owner's authorization, in open waters, without proper equipment, and without training to operate the vehicle. Do you know what that's called in law?" Her silence was almost deafening. "Theft and illegal operation of a vessel." The woman started blinking too fast, as if her brain was locking up. Her desperation was visibly increasing. "What? No! This is ridiculous! No! This is ridiculous! I'm a respectable citizen! You can't treat me like this!" Ah, yes, there was the old respectable citizen trick, as if the law made an exception for those who think they're important. "Well, we're going to board your vessel now, so I suggest you keep your hands visible and cooperate." At this point, she realized that she had nowhere to run. If she tried anything, it would only make matters worse. She was totally under our control. And now came the best part, taking her back to dry land, straight to interrogation. Her silence was almost comical. That woman, who loved to play the superior, was now sitting on my boat, cowering like a wet cat, while we escorted her back to dry land. The boat she stole? One of my colleagues took over and started maneuvering it back, as if it were nothing, while she looked on, dumbfounded, realizing how ridiculous her whole excuse, that the boat was broken, was. She didn't say a word during the journey. She just stood there, staring at the ground, trying to absorb the size of the problem she had gotten herself into. I could see her brain trying to find a way out, a way to turn this into a misunderstanding, but there was no escape. She had stolen a boat. Even worse, she stole a Coast Guard officer's boat. As soon as we docked at the port, an officer was already waiting to register her. Yes, because this was now an official occurrence. And that's when the real despair set in. "I can't be arrested. This will ruin my reputation." Oh, how I wanted to say, "You should have thought of that before you took something that wasn't yours." But I kept quiet. I let the officer himself explain the situation to her. "You're not being arrested yet, but you will have to make a statement at the police station, and the owner of the boat has the right to lodge a formal complaint." She turned to me with wide eyes. "You're not going to do that, are you?" It was just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. That was the word she chose, to describe the fact that she had cut the ropes of a boat and gone out into the middle of the sea without permission. She still tried to argue, saying that she thought I could borrow it, that she didn't know it was a crime, and that I should have made it clear that no one else could use the boat, as if I needed to stick up a private property. Do not steal. Please sign. But the truth is that she knew exactly what she was doing, and now it was too late. After all this shenanigans, I had no doubts. I made a point of filing a lawsuit against her. She tried everything to avoid it. First, she sent messages saying she wanted to resolve this amicably. Then she asked the HOA to intervene and put pressure on me to withdraw the complaint. And finally, when nothing worked, she offered money to make up for the inconvenience. Only now it was no longer about money. It was about justice. The case went ahead, and, as expected, she lost. She was ordered to pay a hefty sum in damages, legal fees, and, to make matters worse, she was banned from going near my property or my boat. But the real punishment came later, because when the story spread around the condominium, the reputation she held so dear went down the drain. No one took this woman seriously anymore. No one wanted to be associated with her. And, to complete the final blow, she lost her position in the HOA. Yes, because apparently stealing a Coast Guard commander's boat doesn't go down too well in a luxury condominium. Months later, she put the house up for sale and disappeared. She left without making a fuss, without a farewell party, without any neighbors caring. Well, I carried on with my life as usual. My boat remained safe on my dock, now with a reinforced security system. Not that it was necessary, since no one else would dare touch it. If there's a lesson in all this, it's that some people need a shock of reality to understand that the world doesn't revolve around them. And sometimes that shock comes in the form of a Coast Guard speedboat and a well-deserved lawsuit. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a comment and a like.